he wasn't really present, in my life like that. When I was young, he wasn't there. My mother struggled um, by herself, trying to take care of the family. One of them typical single mother, and the father had just, left. They just left. He was doing other things that were more important in his mind. He wasn't able to be as responsible as he should have been. Um, so he really didn't do much for me. But I remember him telling me, like, how some children, when they grow up, they say they remember what their mother or father told them, this or that. He said, don't ever lie unless it'll keep you out of jail. And then he said, don't ever mess with white women. Those were the two things that I remember my father told me in his whole life. Of course, I remember spending some time with him when I was a little younger. Like, I don't remember whose house it was. Probably was my grandmother's house, Mama Love, because he never had his own place. Like the Temptation song, excuse me, that says, Papa was a rolling stone, wherever he laid his hat was his home. And that's kind of like, my father, how I see him. I loved him so much. And my mother, my mother used to ask me the question. He said, why you love him so much and he never done nothing for you? I mean, I was young, teenager, and then, growing up, I loved him the whole time. I don't know. I mean, I loved him the whole time. I had some thoughts about, I wish he could have gotten it together. But in spite of all of that, I loved him. And I think about him, and it's one song that makes me think about him a whole lot. And sometimes I cry when I hear this song. It's called Sometimes It Snows in April. And it's one of my favorite songs because I love Prince. And it talks about a friend that Prince had. And if you listen to the lyrics, make me cry sometimes. He says, Tracy died soon after a long-fought civil war. That's how it comes on. And the Civil War was my father battling with himself. That's how I interpreted the song. Battling with himself, wanting to be a man, wanting to take care of his responsibilities, but was never able to win the battle against himself. And he succumbed to himself and fell victim of his own self, So I remember at his funeral, I spoke at the funeral, and what I said was, he was a victim, and Black men in America, some of us can use that as an excuse for being negligent, okay? But it is a fact that when you Black and grow up in America, when you're Black like we are, Black men, you have a great challenge to get yourself together and become a man without the proper knowledge or proper example. Then you languish in the ghetto mentality, and you languish in your own thoughts. You become a victim of yourself, which in turn you're a product of the American society, the American judicial system, the American social order, although it's not America's fault for our decisions, but because we live here under their leadership in their society, they're responsible for the mess that they've created of Black men. So I understand that about my father, and I never hold him responsible And I honor him and love him very much and wish I could say something to him because he was funny. He used to think he was handsome, brother. He said, one day he said to me, "Hey, Darryl, I saw one of your little friends down there at the store." Because my pop used to sit in the cut at the store and shoot dice with all the other men. He wasn't a big liquor drinker or them little drinks they used to have. What they call them? Roman Rocket and Wild Hours Rolls, Thunderbird. He wasn't drinking that, but they was shooting dice, drinking and stuff. And we used to walk to that store sometime. And a friend of mine named Tony Little saw him and they talked. And then he said, "I saw one of your friends, Darryl, down there." He said, "Ask him if he remembers seeing this handsome man." Handsome man. And he was so serious in his face when he said that to me. I was like, this man think he fine. That's one thing about Skeet, boy. He thought he was a fine brother.
Were there men in your life that did do things for you, either from verbalizing wisdom or through their actions that you observed?
My Uncle Donald, who was a captain in the Nation of Islam, um, and he introduced me to Islam at a very young age. I can remember after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad left in 1975, you know, a lot of the Muslim community, they went with the Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad, the messenger's son. And of course, he went, and Brother Ali Shah, the minister in Charlotte, used to be Larry 4X. You know, they all turned, they turned the mosque into a masjid, and they turned the Muhammad University on Beatties Ford Road into Sister Clara Muhammad School. So we would go to the school. I can remember once going to the school on a Friday, having Jumu'ah prayer, and we would be out cutting grass with my uncle, and he would make us stop, wash us up, take us down to the masjid or to the school, Sister Clara Muhammad School on Beatties Ford Road, and had Jumu'ah, and we in the back laughing because of the Arabic. You know, we ignorant, man. I'm 11, 12, maybe 13 years old. But see, this is the influence that my uncle had. You know, he was a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I never connected, as you know, when I was young like that. I never practiced Islam or was inclined toward it until I went to college. My cousin Roger, who used to take me with him on the weekend sometimes to make money. He was a handyman, and you know he'd done a lot of handyman work, and I used to help him all the time. You know, on the weekend and some summers to earn money. So he was a positive influence. It's my cousin Chucky, who is a walking encyclopedia, man. I'm telling you, that boy. You think I'm loquacious and long-winded? You get in the conversation with Chucky, brother. And he got so much knowledge, man. He knows so much stuff. Chucky, you know, he got books and tapes, and you know, he's that kind of brother, man. And he himself is a member of the Nation of Islam, brother Charles X. My Uncle Charles, man, he used to put us on the horsey, let us go to his farm, put us on the horsey, man, when we was little. And that man, see, this is why I like my Uncle Charles. That man would work. You hear me? You go over Uncle Charles' house, brother. I don't care what you doing, you gonna work. Men and women. So when his daughter died back in 2015, my cousin Rhonda passed, I think it was 15. Now I got on a full suit at the funeral. We go to the house with a repast. They got everything set up. Uncle Charles said, "Come here, Darryl." You know, he's talk real country. "Darryl, come here, Darryl." Came like, "Salaam alaikum, boy. Good to see you, boy." He said, "All right, I want you to get these chairs right here, and I want you to go in that shed and find me every chair that look like this." And then when he started telling me, the group of cousins I was talking to started walking away. when Uncle Charles called me over there, everybody left. Because they knew, man. They know Uncle Charles, you're going to do some work. As I move on and matriculate in life, you know, my friend Mike McCorkle, my friend Sanchez Jackson, see, these brothers had influence on me. Sanchez's greatest influence. I remember one day I was sitting in the classroom in our shop, SHOP, shop class. And I forget the teacher's name, but he used to be he might have been high all the time. But he got like he didn't know what was going on. We used to sneak out, send Spiro to the hardest to get everybody a steak biscuit. And the teacher never knew he was gone. Oh, Mr. Clark was his name. But Sanchez said to me, we was in shop class, he said, what you gonna do when you graduate? I said, I don't know. Now, my senior year, brother, in our last quarter, he asked me, just asking me in general. I said, I don't know. Sanchez said, why don't you go to college, man? He said, what about your family? What about your future? I said, I don't know nothing about that. Now, I'm 17 years old. I hadn't planned none of that. Sanchez said, I tell you what, you go to college, come with me and be my roommate. I said, all right. So I applied to Barber Scotia. That's where we went. I was 17 years old. Sanchez had that influence on me. He put that college in my mind, which wasn't there before. And also he influenced on my fashion development, because that's one of my greatest hobbies, and I got a little knowledge in that area. Sanchez started me on that road, and then Mike McCorkle as well influenced me in the way of fashion, and I really wanted to be like Mike. I didn't say that. I didn't tell him that, but he was real smooth. He's the first brother I ever seen with some Italian loafers on. I mean, we hood children, brother. Court come to the party, people got on sneakers or whatever. Court got on a silk shirt, some real fresh flowy pants, and some tan Italian loafers with a kilt, man. Now we teenagers. I was like, okay, yeah, see, that's where I'm going. Then I go to college, and I meet you, and your influence on me. I've already told you that a lot of ways, business way that you think, and some of the strategies you used to take to upgrade the things in your house, and how you took care of your things, and how you always was professional and planned. I was like, see, I like that. And of course, Brother Leonard, the man who introduced me to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, very, very influential in my life. Brother Leonard was walking and talking to me, and then he was making a point, but he quoted a scripture in making his point. I fell in love with that whole style of talk. I said, man, can you teach me to talk like that? It's, woo, Brother Leonard is the man, So, my inclination toward, speaking and loving knowledge, started. But also Marito Rodriguez, he was a Black Power, combat boot stumping, Q dog, radical brother. I got that radical stuff from him. I had never heard of what was in Public Enemy song. I heard it before, but Marito used to break down what's in the song. I said, I ain't never heard that before like that. I heard the song, but I never knew he broke that down. Well, so many men, brother. I'll just name them. Cecil Hilliard taught me how to be a professional, like a real professional. Of course, Minister Willie was the greatest spiritual influence in my life. Brother Captain John, who was, and these men still are, but when I was younger, taught me a lot. And Brother Captain John he provided me with that strong father figure from the militancy part. He used to say Islam activates the militant propensity in the Black man. See, I like that. So this stern kind of thing that got going on and had going on doing, I got that from Brother John, man. He trained me, as an FOI, him and his lieutenants. So, and of course, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, the major influence. But I'm made up of a community of people, but men. I'm blessed to have brushed shoulders with strong men of purpose, men of consequence, men that provided me with examples, brother. Dr. Bell, Larry Little, who used to be the president of the Black Panther Party in the state of North Carolina, and he on the FBI list. He's now a professor at Winston State University. I'm made up of a community, man. I got to give credit to everybody that touched me positively, brother. And it's a lot. It's a lot that I just can't mention on this subject, but it's too many people, man, that I'm thankful for having come in contact with those people. Yes, sir. Positive black men. Okay, so I wasn't such a good father, even though in my false pride and arrogance and ignorance, you try to justify stuff that can't be justified. With my oldest son, Stephen, and I first found out about him when he was 2 years old, and he loved his father. He used to go to my mother's house. He was a young boy, 2 years old, young. But we fell out of contact because when I graduated college and I moved, and me and Salisbury got married, he came to the wedding. He was 8 years old. Came to the wedding, repast, all of that. He was in my life at that age. He was young. And, we just fell out of contact because of me and his mother. It wasn't her fault. It's my responsibility. But I wanted to raise Stephen myself. And I asked her, she said no. And then, I, in my own mind, making up stuff, I was out of the boy's life for, I think, 6, 7 years, maybe, something like that. Me and him reunited. And the blessing part was, it appeared as though, and it is for fact, for sure, the boy loved me in spite of myself. He still loved his father. We just became so tight, man, so close, like close-knit tight. But I never wanted to do what I did and be like my father in that way. I never wanted to do that. I wanted to be a respectable man and a respectable father. And that was one of my main goals, was to try to be that person when I had my own children. I wanted to show them. I wanted to guide them. I wanted to teach them. I wanted them to have the best things in life that they could have. You know how parents love their children. So I wanted to be a good father, man. I tried to, all these years, be a good father. And a lot of the stuff that I learned from people, the little financial tips and things I learned from you, and little fashion tips, and the wisdom and the knowledge I learned from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and listening to his teaching for 30 years and following him, and being trained as a FOI, that had more of an influence on my fatherhood than anything was me joining the FOI class. Because what Brother John, a captain, used to tell, he said, brother, we make men on Monday nights. Muhammad Mosque number 92 is a men manufacturing plant. I said, good God Almighty. Go ahead, Brother John. We make men on Monday nights. That's the FOI class. That class has so much camaraderie and spirit and brotherhood, man. I'm trying to tell you, there's nothing like that energy, and you're inspired to want to be a better man. That's what the FOI done for me. The teacher on Darryl Muhammad changed me from the inside. a complete transformation to where people would of my past would look at me and say, "It's a miracle." Man, my whole life was patterned around the Nation of Islam. It was the most important thing, and is one the most important thing in my life, because it helped me. It helped transform me from a Negro, ignorant person into a man. See, that's what it did for me. Certain standards and certain principles and certain virtues that I would learn, and I was a great excuse me, I was a great student, and I tried to implement those things in my household with my wife and my children, and the dietary structure and habits and the way that we did everything was focused around the Nation of Islam. It's my life. Yeah, for sure.
So, would you say, or would you agree that in the absence of a man or male figure in the home physically present, do you think that religion offers a viable substitute that can guide and redirect young men, or is it something else you would say?
Well, let me say it like this. Could be religion, but more so an understanding of the principles and virtues that all religions have in them. The good principles and virtues of character building, what they call, quote unquote, the golden rule, or knowing right from wrong. Putting these principles into practice can transform, because these principles are eternal. They were here before we got here, and they'll be here after we're long gone from the earth. So though it was the most important thing was the principles that I was taught. I was taught in the Nation of Islam, and religion, if it's done properly, can certainly have that effect on transforming people if it's done properly. Now, I'll say this, and I believe this: if my son wanted to be a Christian, right? That's fine. I mean, that's their choice. But let's say Nasir wanted to be a Christian, right? He will get no argument from me as long as you commit to it and you become, or try to strive to become, the principles embodied in it for young men. Strong examples of young men in a Christian church can forge that kind of character in young men. I don't care what you call it. I don't. Islam just happened to be, to me, the FOI is the best, but it's not the only. But it got to be done right. It can't be a watered down version of Christianity with all the clapping and the singing. I mean, that stuff is nice, all the running down the aisle and Reverend floating in from the ceiling on a trapeze wire looking like Spider-Man, because he want the people to think he coming out the sky. I've seen this kind of stuff. That's foolishness. See, we can't build strong men for our community with that kind of show going on for religion. So that kind of religion is no good for our people. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, it's just not. It's false worship. It's false worship. So if one of my children wanted to go in any religion, want to be a Buddhist or whatever, as long as you commit to the principles, it will have a positive impact on your life. That's all I care about when it comes to religion and spirituality, and the principles and virtues that Allah put in all.